I was alone in my apartment, contractions getting stronger by the minute, when my phone buzzed. A text from a random number that said, "On my way, honey." I was about to delete it when another contraction hit. That stranger's wrong text became the miracle that saved both our lives. If you've ever felt completely alone in your darkest moment, this story will remind you that help can come from the most unexpected places. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss what happens next. People said to make themselves feel better about bad luck. But what happened to me on that cold March night changed everything I believed about coincidences, strangers, and the power of human kindness. You know how they say everything happens for a reason? I used to think that was just something I was 19 years old, 8 months pregnant, and more alone than I'd ever been in my life. My tiny studio apartment felt like a prison cell most days. The walls were thin, the heat barely worked, and the neighbors were loud enough that I knew way too much about their personal lives. But it was all I could afford on my part-time wages from the campus bookstore. The father of my baby had vanished the moment I told him I was pregnant. One day, we were talking about our future together, and the next day, his phone was disconnected, and his friends acted like they'd never heard of him. My parents had made it clear that if I chose to keep the baby, I was on my own. They'd offered to pay for other options, but when I said no, they stopped taking my calls. My few close friends had slowly drifted away as my pregnancy progressed. It's funny how people disappear when your life gets complicated. So, there I was, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to finish my sophomore year of college while preparing to become a mother. I'd been having what I thought were practice contractions for hours that evening. Braxton Hicks, the pregnancy books called them, false labor. But as the clock ticked past 11 p.m., these felt different, stronger, more regular. I tried to ignore them at first. I had a paper due the next morning that I hadn't finished, and I couldn't afford to miss any more classes. But by 11:30, I was doubled over on my tiny couch, gripping the armrest so hard my knuckles turned white. The contractions were coming every 5 minutes now, lasting about a minute each time. Even I knew that wasn't normal for practice labor. I remember looking at my phone, wondering who I could call. My contact list was pathetically short. A few classmates who barely knew me, my supervisor at work who definitely wouldn't appreciate a midnight call about my personal problems. And that was about it. I had no family to call, no close friends to rely on, no partner to hold my hand. The isolation hit me harder than the physical pain. At exactly 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text message from a number I didn't recognize. "On my way, honey. Traffic is crazy, but I'll be there soon. Love you. Tom." My first thought was annoyance. Wrong numbers always seem to come at the worst possible moments. I started to type back "wrong number," but another contraction seized me, and I dropped the phone, focusing on breathing through the pain. When it passed, I picked up the phone again and saw the message still waiting for a response. I was about to delete it when something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the loneliness, maybe it was the fear creeping in as I realized this might actually be real labor. But instead of deleting it, I typed back, "I think you have the wrong number." The response came quickly. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." I was texting my wife. "Are you okay though? You sound stressed." Tom quickly assessed my condition with professional efficiency. He checked my pulse, asked about the timing of contractions, and gently examined me to see how far along I was. His presence immediately made everything feel more manageable. "Good news and interesting news," he said after a few minutes. "The good news is that you and baby both seem healthy and strong. The interesting news is that this baby is coming tonight, probably within the next couple hours." My heart jumped. "Should we go to the hospital?" Tom looked thoughtful. "Here's the thing. With your contractions this close together and this intense, and given how fast first labors can sometimes progress, I'm not sure we'd make it to the hospital in time. But the good news is that I've delivered dozens of babies, and I have my emergency kit with me. If you're okay with it, I think the safest thing is for us to prepare for the baby to be born here, and I'll call for an ambulance as backup. The next few hours were a blur of intensity, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Tom transformed my little apartment into a makeshift delivery room. He'd brought sterile supplies, clean towels, and all the medical equipment needed for an emergency delivery. More importantly, he brought calm confidence that made me believe everything would be okay. He called his wife to let her know what was happening, and I could hear her voice through the phone, telling him she was proud of him and sending love to both me and the baby. Then he called 911 to have an ambulance on standby, explaining the situation and giving them my address. Tom talked me through every contraction, teaching me breathing techniques that actually worked and keeping me focused on the progress we were making rather than the pain. He told me stories about other babies he'd helped deliver, including his own 3 children, and somehow made the whole experience feel less scary and more like a natural part of life. "You're doing amazing," he kept saying. "This baby is so lucky to have such a strong mom." When the final stage of labor began, Tom's professionalism kicked into high gear. He coached me through every push, monitored both me and the baby's vital signs, and made sure everything was going smoothly. And then, at 3:17 a.m., my daughter entered the world. The moment I heard her cry, everything else faded away. Tom placed her on my chest, and I looked down at this tiny, perfect person I'd created, and I understood for the first time what people meant when they talked about love at first sight. She was beautiful and healthy and absolutely perfect. "She's gorgeous," Tom said, his voice thick with emotion. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and 1 very strong set of lungs. The ambulance arrived about 20 minutes later, just as Tom was finishing up all the post-delivery care. The paramedics were colleagues of his, and they treated both of us like family. They checked us over, made sure we were both stable, and transported us to the hospital for follow-up care. But Tom didn't disappear once his job was done. He rode in the ambulance with us, stayed at the hospital until we were settled, and made sure I had everything I needed. When I tried to thank him, he just shrugged and said, "This is what we do for each other." Over the following weeks, Tom and his family became my chosen family. His wife, Carmen, brought meals and baby clothes. Their 3 kids, all teenagers, treated my daughter like their little sister. Tom helped me navigate the insurance paperwork and medical bills, making calls and advocating for me when I didn't know how to advocate for myself. More than that, though, they showed me what it meant to be part of a community. They invited me to family dinners, helped me find a better apartment when my lease was up, and connected me with other young mothers who became lifelong friends. Carmen helped me learn to breastfeed, Tom taught me how to change diapers like a pro, and their kids babysat so I could finish my college degree. My daughter is 7 years old now, and she calls Tom abuelo and Carmen abuela. They've been at every birthday party, every school play, every important moment. When people ask how I managed as a single teenage mother, I tell them about my family, the one I found through a wrong text message at exactly the moment I needed them most. That night taught me that miracles don't always look like what we expect them to. Sometimes they look like a stranger who cares enough to ask if you're okay. Sometimes they look like someone willing to drive across town in the middle of the night to help someone they've never met. Sometimes they look like a wrong number that turns out to be exactly the right connection at exactly the right time. Tom always says that he was just doing his job, that any decent person would have done the same thing. But I know better. What he did that night went far beyond professional duty. He saw someone in need and chose to help, No questions asked, no judgment passed. He opened his heart and his family to a scared teenage girl and her baby, and in doing so, he changed the entire trajectory of our lives. People sometimes ask me if I ever think about what would have happened if Tom hadn't sent that wrong text. The truth is, I don't like to think about it too much because it scares me. But I do know that everything good in my life can be traced back to that moment when a stranger chose kindness over convenience, compassion over caution. Tom's wrong text message changed my life forever, but it started with his choice to care about a stranger. Have you ever experienced unexpected kindness from someone you didn't know? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else who needs hope today. And if this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need reminding that we're never truly alone. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories, and I'll see you in the next video.